Okay, and these are our cylinder heads. So they've got a few functions. They're kind of like the block. They hold a lot of stuff and kind of keep parts together. But sort of its major function is to be the cap for the combustion chamber. So here we've got, this would sit right on top of the block. That would sit right on top of there, right? So where that piston comes up, we're capping that off with that, and that becomes our combustion chamber, okay? And you can see here too that there's two spots where the valves would be, right? So the valves would go in through there, and then they can open and close to allow air and fuel in and exhaust out, okay? So that's sort of their major function, is to be that cap for the combustion chamber and to house the valves. Now, it also is a spot where the intake manifold bolts to, so that we can have the flow of air and fuel coming in, and the exhaust manifold bolts to, so we have the exhaust coming out. So it's a flow control component as well. So special things, checking them for warpage. So you're going to take a straight edge, right? And you put your straight edge here, 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 like that and like that. Take feeler gauges. You checked for if it was warped. So that's quite common. So the correction for that would be to take and get it surface ground if there's warpage at a machine shop. Okay. And then cracks are another big thing. Okay. So we can magnaflux it. We can look visually. We want to see if there's any signs of cracking on the head. And that's not cracking. That just looks like a spot where there's some didn't get cleaned as well. So these engines are really, really dirty. Okay. That's the cylinder heads. This is where the valves come up from the top. So the valve would come up through here, right? And then we put our valve spring and retainer. Oh, ow, smacked my elbow. So our valve spring and retainer would go here. Valve would come through here. Keepers would sit in there. And then you have your rocker arm there. Okay. So the function of the valve spring is to close the valve. The function of the camshaft is to push the lifter, to push the push rod, which would be coming through this hole here, pushing up on the rocker arm. Rocker arm would sit and pivot, right? So there's our rocker arm. Okay, so a rocker arm would be on there and would pivot, push down on the valve, and open the valve. And then the camshaft lets the valve close when the lobe goes down, but the spring pressure is actually what's pushing that lifter down. You saw in one of the other videos that I had to put the lifter down with my finger because we didn't have the spring pressure.